So I wanted to share a story of a recent catch up I had with a friend that I hadn't seen in 2 years because it really changed like the way I kind of approach life because it made me realize just a lot of things about myself that I never thought I would. So I guess I'll just kind of go through it and kind of just dissect each part as it kind of went on. And yeah, also I'm shirtless because it's like hot as fuck here. But yeah, starting off. So basically, the reason why this is a bit like different from my usual catch ups is because I hadn't seen this friend in 2 years. I met so it was a guy and a girl. I met them last on exchange when I was in the US. So I studied in the US for half a year, and so that's where we became quite good friends. But ever since exchange ended, because we lived in different cities, we never really met up with each other. So this was the first time and went to his city, and it just so happened that both of them were there, and so we're like, hey, catch up. And to be honest, I only reached out to him like a day before because I thought he'd be busy because it was during the holiday season. But I was like, I'll shoot my shot, see what happens, and turned out he was free. So yeah, that was like that's how it all started. And as soon as we saw each other, he was like, "Yo, man, you look so much whiter." And I was like, "Bro, he looks so much fresher." Oh my god, that was kind of cringe. Um, but yeah, so anyways, that was kind of like the initial interaction. It was like just two friends catching up, and we were talking about what's been happening. It's been so long since we last saw each other, and it was yeah, it was just very wholesome like moment. And then we kind of all met up, and since he was kind of like the local, he showed us around. We went to the beach for a walk, and we just started talking about what's been happening in the last 2 years. So we talked about goals, uni, work, things like all the typical small talk stuff, which is which is great. Um, but I realized sometimes like as we were walking, there would just be these like moments of like awkward silences where we're just like we just walk and not say anything to each other. Like maybe you've had that with like your friends where you're just like you just are silent, like yeah. And that kind of happened throughout, and I didn't really know how I like thought about it then because like yes, like like you want to be like talking, continuing on the conversation, and that's what like I try to do. And obviously that helps with the vibe and everything, but at the same time like embracing the silence is also important. Like there are natural parts in conversations where you're just kind of like more silent, and sometimes just talking constantly isn't always necessary. And at the time, I didn't take too much of it. I didn't really find it awkward, and I don't think they did like either. Just because we were like already quite close already, and it's kind of like the spectrum where like at the start, if you don't know anyone and you have an awkward silence, it becomes more awkward. But as soon as you get to know like someone like much more, like let's say your close friend or your family, like having like silences throughout a conversation is like more acceptable. Maybe that's just my experience. So curious to hear what you think, but that is something I did notice. Um, and yeah, I didn't think too much about it. Yeah, maybe you have some thoughts on that, but that's kind of like how the day went. When we went walking along the beach, we had like food and everything. We had like fun, just fun banter, jokes, talking about like life goals and all of that. So all of that was like fine. I wouldn't say the overall interaction was like overall awkward. It was just like at certain moments there were like kind of those like silences. So that was kind of it. Like overall, like when I was hanging out with them, like with the group of three, that was kind of like just my that was basically the entire interaction. To be honest, we kind of just stayed like quite surface level, and then he was dropping us home, so he dropped off the girl, and then we basically sat in the car and we kind of got into a very like deep conversation. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's kind of like hard when you're in like a large group, but when it's like one on one, yeah, we ended up having a much like deeper conversation, and it's like the type of conversation that I really valued. And he told me that he hates like shallow talk. Like he prefers like these much deeper discussions. And obviously you need like the shallow talk, like to get to know someone. You don't want to like meet someone for the first time and ask them, hey, what's the meaning of life? Like it's a bit extreme. So yeah, we started talking about like just life in general. So both of us just got back from exchange, and the thing about exchange is in the US, it's like so hectic. You're doing so many social events at the same time, and you're just doing like so much with your life that it feels like your life is constantly like going forward. You're on a roller coaster. But as soon as I moved back from the US, like it's like you get off a highway and you suddenly stop. You go from 100 like kilometers an hour to suddenly like 10 or even 0. And it was that shock that really made me feel lost after exchange. And it was the same with like my friend as well. Like he just didn't really know what to do with his life. He kind of just like sat around, just played video games, just eating food. He didn't want to like go out anymore. And honestly, like initially I felt the same. It's one of those weird things, like and it might be like hard to like understand it, but like sometimes when you go to like an amazing like travel experience, or you just have this very like fun event like somewhere, and then you come back to your daily routine, you get shocked back into like the monotony of like just the daily schedule. And so that's what kind of happened. We both felt like lost, not sure what to do. And like for me, I don't want to like speak for him, but for me it was just like finding that next group of friends where I could continue to have that, you know, like social life with, and finding like a work that I was passionate about. Like that's what I spent the last 2 years doing, and I left more details in the description below, which kind of highlights my story. But that's essentially what I did. And right now, like I would say it's definitely not the same like type of like satisfaction or fun I had on exchange, but it's like I'm still like satisfied overall. Obviously that doesn't mean I'm like, you know, not like working hard at all. It's like, you know, I'm content with everything, but I'm always going to like try my best to like achieve more. So that was kind of like that section of the conversation that we both kind of felt like lost just after exchange, and in particular with relationships. So for me, like there was this girl I was talking to on exchange, but at the end, since like we were both like I was leaving, we didn't like do anything about it, just because like a long distance is very hard, and I wasn't sure like whenever like I would like head back to the States. Like it's just unfeasible. And so did my friend. He also like had this girl he was like talking to, and it was telling me that like it was just hard. He just didn't know like how to commit, since like he just didn't know the future. And that happened for a year for him. So for me it only happened for like, you know, like a few weeks. So it was like, you know, the band-aid was ripped off quite quickly, but for him it dragged on for like a very long time. And so that was kind of like that was honestly like quite hard for him, and I could like tell from just his like expression and his like the pain in his eyes that like yeah, he honestly like felt like a part of him was like missing after like I guess that long-term relationship not working out. And he was telling me that he decided to like, well, he had a conversation with the girl, and he was like, look, let's just rip the band-aid off like right now. This is a year in, by the way. And he's like, look, I'm gonna unfollow you right now just because, you know, I don't want to like realize 5 years down the line that, you know, you're with another guy, or like I see you here, or like I still like see your post that makes me think about you, like just kind of like these things. And you can say what you want about that, but like that's a completely like valid way to just like cope with that. Might not like potentially might not be the best way, but look, that's how he approached it, and I don't have anything against that. But yeah, that kind of showed me that like yeah, it's he just had like it just took a while to like adapt from like his exchange life. And the reason I bring it up is because that was honestly me. And I thought I was the like only one that was like that, but I was really like grateful for this conversation, because I mean, I realized that I wasn't alone in this regard. And oftentimes like I realized when I was going through something tough, like whether it would be like through like managing relationships and everything, I realized that, you know, the people around me are going through the exact same thing. So it's just about like having those conversations and finding like the people you trust, which is very hard, which is why I really like value this conversation with my friend here, because it showed me that, you know, we're all going through like, you know, similar things here. And so moving on from that, now that he's like gone through the relationship phase, now it's kind of like the monk mode, you know, red pill things you see online, like going to the gym, you know, working, traveling overseas, making money, you know, that's what he's working on right now. And honestly, like for me, it's very similar, like working on the gym, you know, work, maintaining like, you know, relationships, friends, family, and all of that. And that's our shared goal there. So that's kind of like where we kind of left the goals conversation of the the part about goals in the conversation. And there was one final point that was quite like interesting, which was 2 years ago we had a similar conversation just about, you know, about life in general, about goals, about like the next time I see you, what like do you want me to see? And I remember very vividly that 2 years ago we sat down, we had a very deep conversation about the future goals we both had, and the final message he sent to me as I left to go to the airport was, I hope to see the missus next time. And 2 years later, that's what happened. So obviously I was like, yes, let's go. And obviously, you know, that wasn't the only reason I like got a girlfriend, but like it was just a very wholesome moment. Like I remember that conversation very vividly. Like 2 years down the line, like, you know, promise me, and yeah, that's what happened. And so this conversation, I set him the goal as well. Like I was like, hey man, 2 years from now, when I see you again, just because we like live so far away, who do you want to be? And he was like, in 2 years time, I'm going to be physically fit. I'm going to do well in work. I'm going to hopefully find the missus, and I'm going to go to the US. So they're the things that he said he would want to achieve next time I see him. So, you know, in 2 years time, when this video is released, you know, comment below, and yeah, I'll update you if I speak to him then. So that's kind of like how we ended the conversation. I was like, see you in 2 years, and I hope you achieve all of that, all the best. So overall, it was just a very like wholesome day, and I just realized the importance of like having friends. Okay, it sounds kind of bad when I say it like that, but it's kind of like I think we all realize that, you know, having like people you can support, like friends who support you, is important. But through this entire experience, I realized the importance of having like really close friends that you can have like these deep conversations with, that you can like share these like vulnerable moments and know that they're there to like support you with like your goals and everything. So that's something I've truly like took away from this experience, and going into like the future, I'm definitely valuing experiences with like friends much more. Like I initially thought that, you know, hanging out with friends, you know, waste of time, I should just focus on my work and purpose, but no. I mean, it's literally like if you have someone that shares the same values and same mission as you and understands you to a deep level, that they'll support you no matter what. Like that's probably one of the most powerful things you can have in this world. Like no amount of like money can buy that. And so that's just a really powerful realization I had, to nurture relationships and invest into the right friends, because they can sometimes make the biggest difference in the world for you.